to the webinar on defining your ideal future, how to create a vision that you love. And this content is so important to me because visualization is almost one of those woo-woo subjects. You know, people are either really for visualization or they think that it's you know, part of Halloween and some sort of wizardry. And today we're going to have a look at what exactly visualization is. And we're going to debunk some of the myths and see how you can use it in your everyday life. So to get started, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so welcome to today's webinar. And before we start, I want to ask a question. If you could wave a magic wand and achieve your biggest goals, just one of your biggest goals in the next 12 months, what would it be? So pop your answer in the chat if you'd like to share it with us. Okay, so today's webinar is defining your ideal future, how to create a vision you love. We're going to go through exactly what visualization really is, why so many successful people swear by it. There must be something going on here if so many successful businessmen, entrepreneurs, athletes use visualization in their daily lives to enhance their success. There's myths and truths about visualization. So we want to go and have a look at what those are, debunk some of those myths, look at the science behind it, because that makes me very excited. I like to see facts. I'm not a very woo-woo person. I like to see, you know, this is how it actually practically works out and it makes sense. So we're going to look at the science behind it, and then we're going to look at how to use visualization in your daily life to fast track your success. So are you ready? Okay, first up, what exactly is visualization? And my key quote that I found for today's webinar is from Albert Einstein, and I absolutely love this because he reminds us that imagination is more important than knowledge. For while knowledge defines all we currently know and understand, imagination points to all that we might yet discover and create. And visualization is using your imagination. And in today's society, we've got so little opportunity to actually use our imaginations. You know, a lot of people, there's so much knowledge around, there's so much stress, there's so many things going on, and people are so overwhelmed that you don't actually take time out of your day to imagine. And every single thing, every new technology, every new way of, you know, more efficient way of doing things, etc., has come about by some wacky person who has decided to go against the norms of society and figure out something totally different by using their imagination. So visualization is creating a detailed mental image of something that you want to achieve. So you're going to use your imagination to do that. Think of it as a mental rehearsal where you imagine your success before it actually happens. Why is it so powerful? The first reason is because it taps into your subconscious mind. By visualizing your goal clearly, you can help train your subconscious mind to work towards that outcome. And we're going to look at the science behind that a little bit later on in the presentation. The second reason why it's so powerful is because it actually creates belief. The more you vividly visualize what you're wanting to achieve and your success, the more you will believe in your ability to achieve your goals. Okay, so let's talk about a story quickly. So I've always been fascinated by this visualization story, and some of what I've heard just didn't make sense to me. But because so many successful people continuously refer back to a visualization and have used it, I thought, okay, well, hang on. Let's just quickly start investigating this. And one story that really stuck out for me is a story that comes directly from a neuroscience experiment, if you want to call it that. But it was basically some researchers in neuroscience. They wanted to understand what happens in the brain when we're actively doing something versus when we're merely imagining doing it. So what they did was they brought a very highly skilled concert pianist to come and conduct this experiment. And they brought him there and they put him, gave him a piano to play. But before they did that, they hooked up one of these machines where they put the diodes on your head to measure your brain waves, so that they could measure his brainwave activity while he was actually playing this piece of music on the piano. And as expected, the brain regions associated with movement, coordination, memory, emotion, all lit up while he was playing the intricate patterns on the piano and his fingers were moving. And it was all perfectly in sync with the music that he was playing. So then they said to him, okay, that's great. Now stop playing. Why don't you come take yourself away from the piano, come sit in this comfy couch, make yourself comfortable, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and just imagine that you're playing that exact piece of music in your head. So they asked him to simply visualize himself playing the piece. And this is where it got very, very interesting, because even though his hands were on his lap, his brain waves showed almost exactly the same activity as when he was physically playing the piano. The regions involved with finger movement, with memory, with emotion, with musical expression, are all activated almost exactly the same as if he were actually performing the piece in real time on the piano. So what this study revealed is something very interesting, and that is that your brain doesn't entirely distinguish between reality, what you're actually physically doing, and what you're vividly imagining or visualizing that you're doing. So by visualizing that he was playing the piano, his brain was creating nearly the same brain waves, the same mental, the same psychological state as if he were actually playing. And in essence, his brain was practicing without the physical act of practicing the piano. And what this shows us is how powerful visualization can be. When we vividly picture ourselves achieving our goals, our brain begins to wire those actions and experiences as if we're actually doing them. And this helps us to build confidence. It helps us to stay motivated. It helps us to clear the pathway to success. And the brain, in essence, is practicing in advance for the success that you're about to make happen. And it's preparing us to follow through for when the real opportunity arises. Now, isn't that just amazing? Our brains are so amazing. So why does visualization work? We're going to have a look at that through the course of this webinar. But visualization isn't just some new age idea, because Many successful people have used it to enhance their lives. And I'm going to illustrate this through another story. Okay, slightly different, but this is an example of how an athlete used visualization to prepare herself to run a marathon. So let's call her Sarah for the sake of our story. So Sarah is an athlete and she's a marathon runner, and she's been training for some time now for her first big race. And what her coach suggested to her is that she starts incorporating visualization into her daily routine. And at first she says, this sounds a bit dodgy. What is the point of imagining this? You know, I need to get out there and I need to run the race. I need to train harder. But she decides, okay, what do I have to lose? I'm going to give it a try. So every night before bed, she closes her eyes before she falls asleep and she imagines herself running the race. She sees herself at the starting line, feels the excitement in the air. She hears the sound of the gun going off, visualizes herself running through every stage of the race. She feels strong, she feels confident, she feels steady, and she even pictures the points where she usually struggles at mile 20, and her legs feel like lead, and she pushes herself through that part that is so difficult, finishing the marathon strong. So on race day, things didn't go quite as planned, and at mile 15, she got cramps in her legs. Now, instead of panicking, she remembers what she visualized. She calms her mind, she refocuses, and she pushes through exactly as she imagined. So even though she doesn't win the race, she finishes with her best personal time yet. And her consistent visualization gave her the mental edge to overcome that challenge at the 15-mile mark. So it didn't make it easy, but it helped her stay composed and focus on her goal. So the moral of the story is that visualization won't remove the challenges. It won't do the work for you. But what it does is it prepares you mentally to handle those challenges with resilience and focus. So let's look at some myths and truths about visualization. So the first myth is that visualization alone can make things happen. You know, you get those people that say, oh, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to think of this thing that I really want and visualize it, and poof, it's going to appear out of the sky. There are some people that believe that, but I don't believe that. And the fact is that visualization is a powerful tool, but it will only work when coupled with action. Although visualization creates mental clarity and motivation, the action is what bridges the gap between the mind and reality. So it's like your magical ingredient. You have to bring the action to the party. Second myth, that visualization is just daydreaming. Actually, visualization is an intentional mental rehearsal. It's a focused technique that strengthens your ability to achieve your goals. Whereas daydreaming is very spontaneous and completely unstructured. But visualization is strategic and it's goal-oriented. So visualization is mentally rehearsing your success. And by doing that, you're embedding it into your subconscious mind. And we're going to look at why that works when we discuss the science behind it. And myth 3 is visualization only works for big goals. Beep, wrong answer. No, visualization can work for anything. It works for small goals, bigger goals. It works for things like building better daily habits, mastering a new skill. So what visualization does is it strengthens your focus and your motivation. So visualize yourself practicing that new skill. If there's something that you're learning that's new, that's like if you're learning to play guitar, visualize yourself playing the guitar, playing those chords. It really will help you. If you do it consistently, it can help keep you motivated so that you can reach your goal. So for an activity, what I would like you to do is to reflect on the myths. Do you have any doubts about visualization? If you do, counter your doubts with facts based on what you've just learned. And then I want you to write down one small concrete step that you can take today for each of your visualized goals. And then I've got another question. Have any of you encountered these myths before, or perhaps believed in them at some point? And if you have, then please share it with us. We'd like to hear. Okay, so I've been talking about the science. Now let's have a look at the science behind visualization. So visualization works with your reticular activating system, and this is the RAS. So it's the gatekeeper for information that enters your brain. So if you think about it in your everyday life, there's just so much going on and so many things that are happening. So if you remember, like when you studied, you were studying for a big exam, and you were putting all your focus onto your work that you're studying. And suddenly what happened was all the noise around you, you didn't hear it anymore. So what happened? Did the noise go away? No, it didn't. Your RAS filtered the noise out because it wasn't important, so that you could focus on the work that you were studying. So that's what the RAS does. So it's like a mental radar that's constantly scanning for things that actually matter to you. And here's a little picture to show that it actually does exist. You see here by the brainstem, it's like a whole bundle of nerve endings that decides, and it filters the information into the different parts of your brain. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I was just so excited when I discovered that visualization actually works because of something that actually exists in your brain that helps you filter out the information. So how exactly does this work? Now, think of it. When you're constantly visualizing your goals, you activate your RAS. So you're telling your reticular activating system that this is important to you. So what happens is that it's more likely that you will spot any opportunities and resources that you have at your disposal or that come across your path to be able to bring you closer to that goal. It also programs your RAS to make you more aware of pathways to achieve your goals. So another example is you've decided that you want to buy a red Picanto for your next car. Nice brand new red Picanto. And so now you thinking about this Picanto and you start doing some research on the internet to see how much it costs, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly tomorrow morning, you're driving your kids to school and everywhere there's a red Picanto. Now, the funny thing is that they've always been there. You just didn't notice them because they're not important. And because there's so much information that your brain is coming in to you through your sight, your smell, your touch. I mean, every single thing that is happening around you is a little bit of information that's coming into your brain. Your brain, i.e. your RAS, has to decide what is, of all those thousands of bits of information, what is important to you. And by visualizing and repetition, you can actually train your RAS to say, this is important to me. Okay, so how can you actually incorporate visualization in your daily life to fast track your success? The first is morning visualization, and I like doing this, especially like if you go, you get into the shower, you're nice and relaxed, and then you start thinking and you pre-visualizing what your day is like. You know that you're reminding yourself that this is your to-do list. These are the important things to do today. You've got to go to a meeting with this important client that you've never met before, and you run that through in your head. You visualize possibly how the presentation will go. Then you've got to go and do something for your kids. So even though you showering, getting ready, etc., you can actually role play, do a mental rehearsal of your day every single day. And what this does is it sets your tone for the day. It also helps you to stay positive, to stay motivated. If something unexpected comes across your path, you know where you're headed for that day because you've visualized it, you've planned it, and mentally you're prepared and you're strong for it. So that's morning visualization. Then before challenges, I like this one, and especially, these two particular instances where I use this quite often. The one is when I'm going to walk into a meeting with a client and there's going to be some form of confrontation. Or you're going to have a difficult conversation. And unfortunately in life, it's not always pink roses and pretty flowers and butterflies and everything. You do have challenges. People don't always agree with you, etc. So you will go into that meeting, and before you go in, it's going to be a difficult meeting. And that's where visualization helps. You can run through your perspective in your mind in advance. So you mentally prepare yourself for what your viewpoint on the matter, what you're going to communicate, what your presentation is at the meeting. And you can also do that by mentally preparing yourself for any counter arguments you'll have from the other people around the table, any expected confrontations. If they ask you this question and you're role playing it with yourself in your mind, you're visualizing it, so that when they do come and give you that difficult question, you've already preempted it, you've prepared yourself. Now, I do know that you do get blindsided. I've been blindsided at meetings where I've walked into a meeting in spite of visualizing everything and mentally preparing myself. People have brought totally different things to the table, and it was like, where does that come from? That does happen. But the thing is that if you go in and you're totally winging it, you're even less prepared and you're less motivated. You are less positive and confident in your ability to handle that. So a difficult meeting is one thing. The other thing that's a challenge is if you are going into a confrontational situation with someone that you're in a relationship with, maybe one of your friends, you don't agree with what they're doing, and you care for them so much that you have to address the issue. It could be a friend, it could be your partner in life, it could be your children. Actually visualizing the conversation in advance and trying to preempt what their side of the story is and any possible confrontations or, things that they might have to say will help you to keep calm and to address the whole incident in a calmer fashion. So visualization really does help with challenging situations. Then the last thing way that you can use it in your everyday life is future visualization. And I really like this because there are a few ways that you can do future visualization. And I would suggest that you allocate some time, like you mark it in your calendar as something that you go and do on a regular basis. So the first type of future visualization is, for instance, to imagine yourself right at the end of your life. We call it the rocking chair exercise, where you're sitting in a rocking chair, you're 88 years old, you're sitting on the porch, you're watching all the people, go past, and you're reflecting back on your life, and you're saying, what have I done? What am I proud of? What are my accomplishments? What legacy have I left? And how have I impacted people's lives around me? Now, going that far into the future helps you to discover your life's purpose, and it also helps you connect to your value system, what is like really important to you. So you then know you can come back to your current set of goals and see, okay, so I've imagined myself at 88 years old, and these are the things that I want to have accomplished by then. My current set of goals that I'm working on, are they in alignment with that? Are they going to get me there ultimately? I mean, you don't really think of yourself in 30, 40, 50 years' time, but every now and then it's a good exercise to do because it constantly reinforces and reminds you of why you're here on this planet and what you want to achieve as a human being and the impact you want to have on society or the legacy you want to leave for your children. Then another useful way to use future visualization is to go 3 years, 5 years into the future. So, for instance, you're currently working for a corporate, you're successful, your career is, you're almost at the top of your game, you're in your 40s, so your children are almost, they're teenagers. But in 5 years' time, what's going to happen? 5 years' time, your whole life is going to change because your children will be out of the house. They're grown-ups, they're adults, they don't need you anymore. And that is your opportunity to maybe go out there and study that degree you've always wanted to study, or start that business and leave this corporate grind that you've always been wanting to do. So what it helps is 5 years from now, that is where you want to be. Put yourself in your own shoes and feel it, experience it. What would your life be like? What does it feel like? Who's around with you? What do you see? What are you doing? Try and make it as crystal clear as possible. Because if you know very clearly, if your picture of your future is very clear, it is so much easier to create a plan to get to that point in 5 years' time. Okay, so that's the one thing that I really love about visualization. If you're working towards a future that's all fuzzy and blurry, you will never get there because you don't actually know what you want. Whereas if you sit and you imagine yourself actually in that success at that point where you've achieved your goal in 5 years' time, it just makes it so much more tangible. And then you will have something to work with to backtrack to present day to create a plan. Okay, so that's the future visualizations. Right, so can you think of a time when visualization helped you in your daily life? Maybe something specific that you'd like to share with us? Do any of you actually use visualization at this point in your life? So if you like, you can pop it in the chat. There were some questions and that that I asked earlier on. Let me see here. Britta and Mikey, welcome. Sorry, I can't see your names on the screen. I had to look at the participants list. I had two questions earlier on in the presentation, which you might want to think of as well. Let me just go back to those questions quickly. Okay, the first is, if you could wave a magic wand and achieve just one of your biggest goals in the next 12 months, what would it be? So if you'd like to share that with us in the chat, we can maybe have a bit of a discussion at the end. And then the other one was, about the myths. We went through the myths and the facts of visualization. And I asked the question if any of you have encountered these myths before. So I'm not sure at what point you joined the presentation, if you'd like me to quickly go through the myths and maybe give it some thought. Or did you hear them? Did you hear them? Okay, let's go through the myths quickly. So I was sharing that I'm the kind of person, I like to understand how things work. I'm a very practical person, and a lot of my first experience and exposure to visualization was this like woo-woo, type of stuff that's, all new agey or some sort of wizardry and sorcery, and you sit there and suddenly poof, it will magically appear and all of this. And then I thought, no, this doesn't sound right to me, because too many successful, like truly successful people continuously talk about visualization. So there must be something more to it. So that's why I went to go and look at the science behind it. And then there were these myths. And that's why I've included it in this presentation, because you will get people like myself who doubt it. And if we can debunk the myths, it is a very powerful tool to help you get your success, to reach your success, and to identify opportunities. So the first one is that visualization alone can make things happen, like a magic wand. But the fact is that visualization is a powerful tool, but it only works when coupled with action. So visualization creates the mental clarity, and it helps you keep motivated when it becomes challenging. But the magic ingredient that bridges the gap between your mind and reality is action. So that's the first myth. The second myth is, what is going on here? There we go. Visualization is just daydreaming. The fact is that visualization is an intentional mental rehearsal of your success. It's a focus technique that strengthens your ability to achieve your goals. But daydreaming, on the other hand, is completely spontaneous and unstructured, whereas visualization is strategic and goal-oriented. It's a mental rehearsal of your success. And by doing that constant mental rehearsal, you're embedding it into your subconscious mind. And when you joined, we were talking about the reticular activating system, which filters information between your subconscious and your conscious mind, and it helps you to focus. And that's where this is just explaining how visualization works from that perspective. By mentally rehearsing, it embeds the picture in your subconscious mind, and it reinforces the message that this is important to you. Okay, then myth 3, visualization only works for big goals. That is incorrect. Visualization actually works for anything. So it can be something very small. It can be building habits, It can be learning new skills. It doesn't have to be these big, massive goals that you're working towards. It strengthens your focus. It keeps you motivated. If you visualize yourself practicing that new skill consistently, it will keep you motivated to keep doing it, and eventually you will master it. So the question was, have any of you encountered any of these myths or believed in them before at some point? Okay. Right. So let's see in the chat. Sarah Jane, if there's a magic wand, you want to travel internationally to Switzerland and Sweden. Oh, how amazing. I've been to Sweden. I must say, it was one of my favorite countries in the world. I've never been to Switzerland. I'd also love to go. Yes, Mikey, I agree. Is that how your name is pronounced? Am I saying it right? Mishi. Mishi, Mikey.
It's Mickey.
Mickey.
Oh,
Okay.
Mickey.
Sorry, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Yeah, Spain is also amazing. I went to Barcelona and I just loved it. Right. Okay, so I've got a take-home activity for you, and I'm going to be sending out the link to the recording. So every second week, what I'm doing is I'm running a webinar which touches on, I've got a coaching program, a 12-step coaching program called the Change Navigator. And so I'm running webinars just to touch on some of the key components that we cover in the coaching program, because I want to share, I want to help people, and I also want you to get a feel for what I'm doing. And if it helps you, I'm very happy. So absolutely no obligation. So I will be sending you a link to this recording plus a copy of the slides, and then you can do the activity at home. Okay, so it's called Define Your Ideal Future Exercise. So I want you to take a journal and set aside some quiet time, and then identify your vision. So think about, even if you take only one thing that you're wanting to accomplish, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and transport yourself there. Use your imagination. Feel what it feels like. You know, where are you? Where are you? What are you wearing? Who is there in the space with you? What have you accomplished? How does it feel? I mean, when you look and you see, wow, I've actually done this, what are the emotions you're experiencing around it? So visualize it in detail. Think of all your senses. Okay, you want your imagination to go wild, and imagination is like a muscle. It needs to be practiced. And in modern society, we don't practice it enough, I believe, and kids use it a lot, but when you're adults, you get so down to earth and bogged down with reality. But use your imagination, practice it a little bit, get excited about your future. Then I want you to write down that story, what it feels like, and what you see, who's there with you, what your goal is that you're visualizing, that you've accomplished. And then go back to it and review it regularly. It depends on how big the goal is. So look at something that's longer term. When you do this, maybe a 3 to 5 year goal that you've got, and look at the progress that you taking and that you've made. So If it's something that's a bit further than 3 to 5 years, maybe reviewing it weekly is a little bit too soon, maybe once a month. But set that time aside, set yourself a reminder to constantly go back and review this goal, what it feels like, etc., and see how far you've come. I really do believe in journaling, because when I was a single mom with 4 very small kids, and I was like I had no idea what I was wanting to do with my life. I felt completely lost. And a friend of mine introduced me to journaling. And I started journaling and saying, this is what I want, this is where I am at, etc. And that actually got me through to success, because journaling coupled with visualization, imagining my future, made it more tangible for me. And when I went back and looked, like after a few months, I paged through my journal, through the pages, and I saw, goodness me, look how far I've come. We so often criticize. We're so easy to criticize ourselves, but we very seldom pat ourselves on the back and celebrate our small wins. So I'd like to encourage you to do this, to see the small progresses and the small steps that you're making towards your goal, and start practicing your visualization. Okay, so wrap up and questions. So we went through what visualization is and how you can use it in your everyday life. We looked at some examples of people who'd actually used visualization. We told the story of the pianist, where they measured the brainwave responses when he actually played the piano versus when he was sitting and visualizing and imagining that he was playing the piano. We also talked about Sarah, the marathon runner, how she visualized the marathon, and when she had a difficult time on the day of the marathon, her visualization gave her the mental clarity and strength to push through and to actually get a personal best. We debunked some common myths about visualization and looked at the facts and the science behind visualization, particularly with regards to your reticular activating system and how it works. And then we looked at some practical ways to introduce visualization in your daily lives and to use it to fast track your goals. Have you got any questions? Something you want to share with us? No? Great. So I've got something to share with you. I wrote a book. It's called Reignite Your Life, Finding Purpose After 50. I wrote this book particularly because I had a lot of changes in my life. I left my 9 to 5 conference management job that I had been doing. I'd been working in conferencing and events for 30 years, and I left that comfortable job, and I was working for the same company for 15 years, and I went out to start on my own. Then my kids all left home. Like in the space of 6 months, I've got 4 boys, and they're all big now. They're between 26 and 18. But suddenly everyone just like left the house. And I had so much change happening in my life that it took me a while to find my feet and to find my purpose and actually get excited about life again. And I decided to write this book because this could be the best time of your life, whether you've hit the big 50 or not. It's all about navigating uncertainty, especially when you're going through big transitions in your life. I mean, other big transitions are if you've gone through a divorce, or if someone close to you has passed away. Grief can cause, that leaves a big empty hole. Finding purpose after loss, and moving to a totally different country. That's also another example. So if you'd like it, you can scan the QR code to download it. I am sending this presentation to you as well. What's covered in the book? Why purpose matters. actionable steps to find your purpose. Life after 50 can actually be the best time of your life. And 4 key questions to help you find your purpose. So I just wanted to spread the message that life doesn't end at 50. You know, when I was younger, I thought, sure, 50 is very old. And, you know, by then you must have accomplished everything, you know, because it's just plain sailing and that's it. You know, there's no more point in life. But actually, there is so much that you can do after 50 and so much that you can look forward to, even if you haven't reached that age yet, just by changing your mindset and your perspective about it. Then my next webinar is on the 14th of November. It's called From Stuck to Unstoppable, Overcoming Obstacles Like a Pro. So if you'd like to join us, please diarize it. That QR code links to the registration form. It's also 30 minutes or so, just looking at how to overcome obstacles in daily life. And the last thing is I'm running a retreat. I'm co-hosting it with a lady called Jax the Heartist. And she's running the retreat in Paris, in Gauteng. And I'm co-hosting with her here in Citrusdal in the Western Cape. So if you'd like to join us, the QR code links you to a page where you can get all the information and you can register for the retreat. It's all about focusing on our breath work, finding calm, clarity, connection, feeling energized, getting away from the hustle bustle, just disconnecting for a weekend and reconnecting with nature, reconnecting with yourself. We've got a breathwork practitioner who's going to be working with the group. We want to keep the group small. Yeah, because breathwork, if you think of it, it's linked to everything that you do. And, you know, that's why when women give birth, they teach women to use breath to help them with it. And when you're exercising, they use breath, and your fitness instructor will tell you how to breathe, you know, through the exercise routine. So breath work is so important. Anyway, so that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. And thank you very much for attending.